The Mafia is not just some historical thing that we remember because of old-school black-and-white movies. The Mafia is still very much around today, and they're still running their operations. And even though the Mafia are notoriously good at keeping things secret and operating in the shadows, sometimes secrets get out, and sometimes things go horribly wrong. Here are 5 times the Mafia betrayed each other and changed everything. Number 5. The death of Benny the Jet. Benny the Jet was a Mafia captain during the mob war of the 1980s in New York. He was known for his flamboyant style and his violent nature. Benny had a reputation for being hot-headed, impulsive, and unpredictable, which made him dangerous but also a liability to the family. For example, one time he kidnapped a judge in order to find out what the judge's ruling would be in an upcoming case involving a member of the Genovese crime family. And then when the judge gave the ruling that Benny didn't like, he actually killed the judge. However, Benny was getting a little too trigger-happy for the liking of the families. They were worried that he might make a mistake that would bring unwanted attention from law enforcement onto the organization. So they decided to have him whacked. A hit was put out on Benny, and he was shot multiple times in front of his girlfriend and son. As if killing someone wasn't bad enough, this guy literally murdered someone in front of his son. And the killer even said, "Sorry, kid, it's nothing personal." Can you imagine? But it gets worse. Even though Benny was dead, his son wanted revenge. His son went to the police and told them who did it and why. This led to the arrest of several mobsters, including the acting boss of the Genovese family. It was one of the biggest blows that the Mafia suffered in the war. You know how the saying goes? It takes a minute to find a wife, but a lifetime to find a good one. Just kidding. Today we're talking about Betrayal. No, for the double-crossing of Donnie Brasco. Donnie Brasco is a former FBI agent who infiltrated the Bonanno crime family in the 1970s. He was able to work his way up through the ranks to become a capo, which is pretty impressive considering he was pretending to be a Mafia member. Brasco spent years gathering intelligence on the family, including information on several planned murders. The problem was eventually Donnie Brasco. Handler started leaking information to the press about the cases against various mobsters. And so the FBI pulled Donnie from the mission and sent him into protective custody. However, this is where things get complicated. While in hiding, Brasco was visited by several mobsters from the Bonanno family, including a man named Mike DiFilippo. The mobsters told Brasco that they were there to help him escape and go into witness protection. However, it turned out that the mobsters were actually there to kill him. Thankfully, the FBI got wind of the plan, and the agents assigned to protect Brasco were able to fight off the assassins. So it was a double cross. The Mafia tried to kill Brasco, and the FBI protected him. Later on, Brasco wrote a book and starred in a movie based on his story. We don't think that any members of the Bonanno crime family are watching. 3. The Lucesy family bloodbath. In the early 1980s, the Lucesy crime family was torn apart by internal conflict. There were a number of power struggles and rival factions vying for control of the family. And since violence was the only way to settle things, there was a lot of it. In 1980, the acting boss of the family, Anthony Corallo, was shot multiple times outside of his home, but he survived. Soon after, several high-ranking members of the family were arrested in connection with a drug trafficking ring. And again, more violence erupted as different factions tried to take advantage of the situation. This is when Anthony "Fat Tony" Salerno took over as the boss of the Lucesy crime family. But it didn't last long. One day in December of 1982, 7 members of the Lucesy family were found shot to death in a Brooklyn social club. It was one of the most ambitious attacks in Mafia history. To this day, no one knows for sure who ordered the hit or why, but it's believed that it was either Salerone's faction or a rival faction. Either way, the bloodbath significantly weakened the Lucesy crime family and gave law enforcement the upper hand during the mob war of the 1980s. Number 2. Murder, Inc. Murder, Inc. was a group of hitmen associated with the Mafia. During the 1930s and 40s, they were responsible for hundreds of murders, and they operated for many years before they were finally brought down. The group was made up of professional killers who were hired by mob bosses to eliminate targets. They were efficient, ruthless, and discreet, which made them very effective. However, as the years went on, the members of Murder, Inc. started to worry about their own safety. They realized that they were expendable. and that the mob bosses would unhesitate to have them whacked if they became a liability, or if there was a way to pin a murder on them. So they started to plan their own future. Several members of Murder Inc. testified against the mobsters in court, and one of them even wrote a tell-all book that exposed the inner workings of the group. The government gave these men immunity from prosecution in exchange for their cooperation. And it was a brilliant move, because it brought down one of the most feared groups in mafia history. Number 1, the cats in the bag. Okay, this one doesn't have anything to do with the mafia betraying themselves. Instead, it's about the mafia betraying someone else. In 1961, a grocery store owner named Santo Trafficante Jr. went missing in Tampa, Florida. At first, the police thought that he had run away, but his wife told them that she knew he had been kidnapped. She said that she received a phone call from a local mobster named Santo Trafficante. Well, that's all we have for you today. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, we'll see you next time.